than to believe something that isn't true. Because if I believe something that isn't true, now I'm being manipulated. Now I'm being led to do things that are unwise, given the actual data. Yeah.
2 questions. Chris, is doubt a virtue? Chris?
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. That's
okay. While you think of that, let me ask Aron. Which theory are you actually appealing to say doubt is a virtue? Virtue ethics, consequentialism.
See, there we go. It's interference.
In order to say doubt's a virtue, you have to appeal to something. What you're appealing to?
We're appealing to common sense.
I appeal to virtue.
I'm appealing to not
being
fooled.
ethics.
So you tell me what label philosophy scholars put on that, and I'll say, okay, whatever.
A virtue by definition is something you always strive to. You want to always strive to be honorable. You want to always strive to be honest. You always want to strive to be courageous. You don't want to strive for doubt because you don't want to strive for doubt.
Understanding.
If you don't want to strive for doubt, you may then not believe something that is true. Doubt is a tool. It's not a virtue. Doubt is beneficial to be used in certain circumstances, but you don't always want to doubt because you don't want to doubt true positions. So the fact that you don't want to doubt true positions, it cannot be an epistemic virtue.
Why don't I want to doubt true positions? I don't want to be fooled.
Because you want to believe things that are true.
Right.
So,
but if you want to be things that are true, all you find out, all you wind up finding out is that they were true.
I'll consider possibilities if you can show me that they're possible. If you'll show me that there is something to consider there.
But if something is true, wouldn't you rather be convinced of it being true than not believe it?
No, I don't want to be convinced. I don't want to shut down something that might be true. I want to be open to that thing being true, but not at the expense of believing things that are not true.
Right, but that's not doubt though. That's what's called open-mindedness. That's what virtue epistemology.
Yeah, I want to be able to verify that my information is accurate.
Sure.
Right. No, I agree. I agree with you, and I think we're on the same page. I think it's just the terminology is a little bit different. I know that doubt is not a virtue in philosophy because the reasons I've given. There's no virtuous epistemic reason to have it as a virtue. You don't strive for doubt. It is a useful tool like anything else, right? I want to doubt things that I meaning not to be convinced of things that are wrong, but I want to be convinced of things that are right. I don't want to doubt true things. And that's what
I think that's great for philosophy, Steve. I think that's great.
I want to understand.
Doubt is not a virtue for philosophy, but for the rest of us in the real world, doubt is a virtue.
Well,
okay,
that's kind of saying, well, it's great for philosophers, but us other people, we're just going to make up stuff. I don't.
The majority is going to follow it as a virtue.
No, they won't. No, I really disagree with that. Actually,
they do.
Chris, say what you're saying.
And the rest of you in the real world think that agnostic atheist is a thing, so we don't.
Who does?
Grenade. Wow.
I don't believe in agnostic people. I think that it's. I think they're all atheists.
We don't exist
underneath the skin. Cool.
Yeah, if you're not convinced, if you're not convinced there's a God, you're not convinced, right? You're either convinced or you're not convinced.
Well, I agree with that. We're just changing. All it is different labels. I'm not convinced there's a God, and I'm agnostic because of it. Aron's not convinced he's a God. He calls it atheism. I don't care one way or another. He at least understands the difference. I understand the difference, and that's all that matters.
If I'm not convinced there's a God, that makes me atheist. I can also be agnostic because I understand that I'm agnostic to the degree that we can't actually know the true nature of the supernatural. That makes no statement about whether we believe there is a supernatural. If there was a supernatural, then we couldn't possibly know the true nature of it because it is supernatural. So we would. And
in my case, I don't believe there's a God, but I'm agnostic. I'm not an atheist because of the reasons I.
Okay, so you accept that the way I define knowledge. I mean, knowledge is demonstrable. You with measurable accuracy. You can show what you know. Right? So, I mean, I always hear, and this is the thing that bothers me most about believers, I know that 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 I know there's a God. No, you don't know shit. Right? They just assert themselves. Right? And they tell, well, I have 100% conviction. I know it in my heart. Whatever kind of bullshit conviction they want to make up. If you can't show it, you don't know it.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things.
I honestly disagree with that, but that's not the reason I disagree with that. What you're talking about. Well, what you're talking about is called explicit explicit knowledge, okay? Explicit or tacit knowledge, which is knowledge that is transportable. Knowledge we can write in a book and copy to something else is explicit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is knowledge I have that I can convey to somebody because I have an understanding of like how to play guitar. So if I want to show Chris how to play guitar, although he knows how to play, that's tacit knowledge. But when we're talking about epistemology, that's not what it means. Knowledge in epistemology means that you believe something to be true, the proposition is true, and that you're justified to believe that proposition under the what's called justified belief, which is a very simple version.
If you can't, and this is the way that I summarize it, is if you can't verify the accuracy of your claims to any degree at all, by any means whatsoever, then you cannot honestly say that you know what you. Well, really I agree with that
because in the degree you have to show that the proposition is true. You can't say you know something if the proposition isn't true, right? Now, how you do that, there's many different ways of doing that. So if you're just saying to the degree that if I can't demonstrate that the proposition is true, then I don't know it, then I would fully agree with you, because knowledge, as you know, is a subset of belief. I have to believe it. It has to be true, and I have to have a reason. I have to have a justificatory reason to accept it as knowledge. Under those conditions, then I can say I have knowledge.
Who was the philosopher who said you can't know something and believe it at the same time?
I don't know, but they were wrong. Whoever it was.
Yeah, really wrong.
Yeah, you have to
Carrot
believe,
Top, wasn't it?
Carrot Top.
Carrot Top.
The greatest philosopher of all time, Carrot Top.
Okay, so let me.
I just want to express something. I mean, I wish that I had the time to continue school. I mean, I knew this guy who was had a terminal illness, and he was going to spend the rest of his life in college. And I actually envied him on the one point that he's just you're going to stay on the learning curve forever. I wish I could be there, and I wish that I could take philosophy. But I got to be honest. At the same time, while I want, and I hate to have the arguments come up when I don't understand them because I'm not schooled in those, and I want to be. At the same time, the only time I've seen philosophy be useful is when it is misused.
Oh, that's just on a shirt. I mean,
how about this? Let me ask Aron this: Do you accept in
with
science?
Steve's face on it. With Steve's face on it.
Do you accept methodological naturalism as science, right, Aron? I mean, I consider you to be a scientific person. You may not technically be a scientist, but you are a layperson scientist for all practical purpose. I would consider you to be what I call a non-experimental scientist, because you don't do experiments per se, but you understand science.
I would do experiments. I mean, I used to I loved being a paleo student at UTD, and where I actually worked in the lab and in the field. I mean, I absolutely loved that. I could have.
So you agree though that science follows natural, but you agree that science follows methodological naturalism, right? It's one of the adherents that. Okay, that's philosophy of science. That's a useful tool of philosophy in science. So in bioethics is philosophy in science. There is useful. Right? Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. But I'm just saying to the people listening, that is a useful thing for philosophy. Now, I agree with you wholeheartedly. When people like Saitan Bernicate and people like that, they'll take philosophy, and I've had this discussion with Aron before. They use it as a weapon. I get that. I don't want to use philosophy as a weapon, except obviously there's times where you have a conversation, you have Socratic method, but I'm there to try to explain how things I think they are, or what the positions are in philosophy. It's not to beat them over the head with, you have to accept this particular position, right? With Saitan and them, they're using philosophy in a manipulative kind of way, and I'm very much against that. And people have noticed that, and they'll come to me and say, "Hey, Steve, how do you fight against this precept argument, or how do you fight against this philosophy?" I'll show them counters how to do it, right? So there is ways of fighting against that type of use of philosophy. But philosophy is a tool; it's a reason. It's the use of reason is philosophy.
Jason, please stop calling my phone. I'm on a show right now, and I'm obviously not going to stop what I'm doing to pick up the phone. So, for the love of God, stop calling me. Okay, so before we close out, I want to do.
Hey, you know what? You bitched the other day. No one was calling you. Now you got somebody calling you, and you don't want to.
I want to cover two things. Did you hear about that, Aron?
No, I didn't. I was going to say you should be taking calls from your. You should be taking calls from your viewers.
We should do that. You know what? We have phone number for that. Actually,
we are. We're getting there, but we're getting there. I've got two things that I need to do first, and then we're gonna get. We do have questions in the live chat, but the first thing is, Dave, if you'll play that first video, and we're just gonna fly through it really quick. I just want you guys to see Ole Anthony, and be kind of ready for tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Katie Couric, and welcome to Eye to Eye.
You just fast
Today,
forward
the
through
Senate
most of this,
began
Dave.
an
Just go to the middle
investigation of
part.
6 of America's
by a young man that spent about 3 or 4 weeks putting a bag of shredded material together, and Benny Hinn and his immediate family to make about $2.1 million a year. Religious ministries don't like me very much. They call me the Antichrist when they're nice. I've received bribe offers as much as $5 million if I would just disappear. There's a lot of animosity, you might say, towards me. For the last 2 years,
right
we've
there, Dave.
submitted
I think that's good.
reports on numerous ministries.
Yeah,
So
I got to tell
that's
you,
who-
I'm envious. I'm envious of you guys that you are interviewing him on your show. I would so love to have that guy on my podcast. I so admire.
Now you. Well, I mean, you'll be talking to him tomorrow, so you can just tell him to.
But it's
Get
still
over it.
not on my podcast. I don't get the credit of having the guy on my podcast.
No, I'm saying tomorrow during the call, or after the show, just tell him, hey, I do a podcast too. Come on over and do it. I'm sure he's the nicest guy in the
Say
world.
all the same stuff to me.
Well, your audience is way bigger, so I mean, there'll probably be a lot of people that it'll get out to. More
don't
people.
sell
But the cool thing,
sell yourselves short. You've managed to make a good deal of cred, of internet cred off the train
Because we
wreck
piss
that you've
people
been
off.
able to show.
yeah, that's right.
There's a lot of
There's one more interesting thing too.
Hashtag-
Not only Ole Anthony this week, but the other one that I'm looking forward to, and I've been looking forward to this for weeks now. I was really excited to get this guy, and I'm already getting some flack from people. This is so funny. People are sending me emails saying that I shouldn't have this guy on because he promotes torture, but he doesn't. Okay, pay attention to what I'm about to tell you guys. All right, this is a haunted attraction. All right. The line to get in here is 24,000 people long. He gets about 500 people a day trying to get into this place. And it's they take 2 people at a time, and it's 8 hours long. Nobody's ever made it the 8 hours. The most anybody's ever made it is 6. These people are signing up for this thrill. It is all simulated. No, nobody's leaving the place bloodied and going to the hospital. Nobody's ever died. So please stop being dramatic with the torture stuff. These people, it's a thrill thing, okay? But I'm going to play a clip right now of what kind of this place entails, and you kind of get a feel for what Thursday is going to be like. But the owner of this is going to be with us and take us through the backstage of McCamey Manor. So
this is
Dave,
the video that I watched. This is the gory one, is it? This is the safe for work one.
No, this is it's on YouTube already. So go ahead, Dave.
Be prepared if this is the gory one.
And you skip
I'm
through
not
this
about
too,
to
Dave.
see somebody's head get cut off, are they?
No, I hope not.
Maybe.
Not looking good so far.
Help me! Yes, please let me out, please! Oh, stop it! No, I can't breathe! Leave that thing out of here now!
All right, Dave.
I was like, you know what? I just did that on Saturday. That was like my house party. What the hell?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
There's a woman in her head in a cage full of rubber snakes, and
No, those are real.
guys
No,
trying to
those aren't
kiss
rubber.
me.
Those are live snakes.
Yeah, those are
dude.
real snakes.
Like rubber snakes to
Those are
me.
real snakes.
I think
Those aren't rubber.
there was if you watch the full thing,
Those
if
are
you watch
real
the full
snakes.
thing, there. If you
I've
watch,
had so many
you're both
snakes
right.
in my hands.
I love snakes,
Even
so I wouldn't be
venomous
bothered by
snakes
that.
in my hands. Those look
Yeah.
like rubber snakes.
Well, you're both right.
Yeah, I wouldn't
See,
be
what
able to
happens
make
is if you watch the
not
longer
spiders.
clip, what he does is there's rubber snakes in there, but there's 2 really big yellow pythons that are moving around. The other ones I think are just to like
Pythons!
simulate more.
The fuck is a python going to
Pythons,
if
if
it fits
pythons,
in
what are they
that
going to
cage-
do? Yeah.
If it fits in that cage and it's with her whole
harmless.
fucking head, then it's
Yeah.
not a big enough snake to eat her head.
No.
I'll tell you this though, Aron, they have hooked up people to car batteries. That is a thing that that
We did
they
that in
have-
high
they have-
school under the teacher's direction.
See, this is why I love this band. So please stop with the